magic item too.
Alright. Are we ready to go? Does everyone have theirs ready?
Yep.
Hello!
Okay, stop. No.
Welcome to the Copperfoxinn.
We're not
I am your monster, but do not roll initiative.
Alright. Welcome, travelers, to the Copperfoxinn. Here we review Homebrew for D&D 5th edition. Come take a seat and join us as we chat together about that. I, as always, am Thomas, the human bard. Joining me this week,
Mercy, the tiefling wizard.
Oh, me? I thought we were...
I'm gesturing.
I needed to wait for him to sit so it wouldn't squeak. Bean! Bean the rock gnome rogue.
And Onog, the half-orc barbarian.
My Grover is gone. I can only do one solid
Oh,
minute
was
of
that?
Grover
I
a
just
day.
saw Grover left. He just paid his tab.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yep. There goes. Goodbye. See you next time. Oh, he got hit by a car.
Oh, no.
I guess he can never come back
I guess he'll
again.
never be able
Oh,
to show
what a
up as a guest.
shame.
Well, it's okay because...
Is this a Kermit? Was that a Kermit?
No.
That's possibly the
That
worst.
wouldn't be Sam. You know,
That's not. That's Kermit if he was also Jay Leno.
No, guys, you don't understand. That's Constantine trying to be Kermit.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
That's what her Kermit accent is.
I always forgot because of the most recent Muppets movie with Constantine, which is the Kermit looking at himself meme. That's where
Yeah.
that comes
It's
from.
the evil copy
With
of
the
Kermit.
black cloak.
Every now and then I get Kermit really good, and then the rest
And
of
then
the
it's
time
just Constantine.
it's Constantine because he's like a Russian frog.
Ah.
He's a Russian.
He's like a Russian spy frog.
What's the Russian for frog?
They don't have frogs.
remember.
There is no
It's-
word.
It's
I knew
It's-
it's just been too long.
it's Rubiet.
No, that's ridiculous.
That actually sounded really Russian. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I know because the word ribbit.
It's the same as everything. It's just comrade.
Comrade.
I used to know it, I just can't remember.
frog.
One of those jump
Oh,
frog. One of those happy
yeah.
comrades.
Lyagushka.
Oh,
What is
I
that?
remember that. Frog.
No, that's the old lady who lives in the tree with the chicken foot.
Yeah.
No.
Frog
that is
woman.
not.
Frog comrade.
Lyagushka.
I thought that was an actual person, and I
It
was
technically was at one point.
so scared.
We wanted to thank everybody whose creations that we're reviewing today for all the hard work that they put in on designing these. You guys did great stuff. And we're just really grateful for all the hard work and creativity that goes into these and for the really awesome voices of the community that we get to hopefully give a bit of a platform to. So today, Mercy has brought our magic item of the week.
Ba-da-da-da.
Ba-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da.
No.
Ba-da-da-da. Take a
Take
look
a
at
look,
my
my
magic
girlfriend.
item. All right, what do you got?
I
Alright.
don't have a girlfriend.
Okay, I have from creator Sefsef on Instagram.
Oh, Sefsef.
Morning strings. Morning as in Mourning.
Yeah, so what you do in the before times after you wake up.
When you wake up, you know how you cry every time you
Yeah,
wake up?
yeah.
You guys do
Yeah,
it, right?
we all do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's called morning.
So it's a lyre, a bardic focus. It is rare and requires attunement by a bard who has experienced deep sorrow before. And I'm
Oh.
going to talk about that later.
Good.
Woof.
I could never have it. I've never been sad.
You don't mourn every morning.
No, definitely not.
Well, you being sad all the time is just a normal thing. We're talking about like
Actual sorrow.
Sorrow.
Yeah, that's fair.
Actual trauma.
Yeah.
So, last will. Upon attunement, the lyre instantly and permanently casts bark skin on you, ignoring concentration and any material, somatic, or verbal components, and increases your maximum HP by 8. The bark skin and maximum hit point increase last until you are no longer attuned to the lyre or you are not holding it. The lyre only comes to an adventurer in a time of crisis and disappears to find a new wielder once the danger has passed.
oh,
So it's sort of like a Gryffindor's sword
I was gonna say
situation.
Pete's dragon situation.
I'm less familiar.
Pizza dragon. You
It's
said.
kind of like Nanny McPhee.
sort of a Mary Poppins situation.
There you go.
It's like that like goblin that lives under my bed. That like on the nights I can't sleep will come up and like rub my tummy.
Nanny McPhee. We just already mentioned that.
Yeah.
No, his name is
Roasted.
Flabby McGee.
Flabby McGee. He's a very fat,
Yeah.
Flanny McGee.
fat goblin
So-
that lives under Bean's bed.
So the thing that I want to talk about with this is I really like the idea of filling your world and your setting with like items of legend. I think that's, I mean, I've talked about before how I wanted to do almost kind of an Excalibur vibe with a character. And so I think that's really cool. My only kind of mechanical question about it is at first I thought it was way too powerful, but then I realized it isn't actually permanent. Because you only have it in your moment of crisis. And so my only concern with it is then that it requires attunement. Which I get is it's trying to say that only a bard can use it by saying that it requires attunement by a bard, but I kind of feel like that would kill the drama of a moment if you want it to be like, oh no, and the thing comes out and attacks you, but then appears in a pillar of light before you, the magical liar, you're saved, and then you gotta be like, okay, but I'm gonna need to sit here for an hour while I attune to it.
take a nap real quick.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if you just added something that, like, it can only attune to these kinds of bards, and when it appears and
you can instantly attune.
It is attuned.
Yeah, which I literally think it's a fix of a couple words like that.
Right,
but I would prefer it, I think, with that little
adjustment. and it's not unheard of in the Dungeon Master's Guide when it talks about like different flavor things you can do to give to magic items in your world. Like it can be like, this was made by stone giants, so it looks like this, or it has these qualities, like it really hates merfolk for some reason, you know, things like that. But one of the things that can be done is like fast attunement. It's just a very willing magic item that quickly attunes to people. And so that could be something that is automatically applied to this or something like that.
I like the vibe that this brings of a greater world outside of your characters, which is something I'm always into, of implying that every moment of the world does not revolve around your player characters acting or not acting. This liar one day will disappear because someone else in the world needed it.
Right.
Because you're not the most important people in the universe.
Yeah.
And I like that. Like, sometimes it's cool to say you're the most chosen person in all the universe and your character is like a, you know, like
you're
avatar
the thing
of a
legend.
god or something. Yeah, like whatever it is. But sometimes it's cool to be reminded, like, there are other adventurers out there in the world too, and you're just one group of them.
They're also getting TPK'd.
Yeah.
I also like the story implications and things like that, because this is where you can just do DM fiat, where you just go, I have decided that you are now worthy enough, or it's important enough that the liar appears for you.
Right.
Or
This
things
is
like that.
the right moment in the story.
Or what does it mean when the liar appears for you and then after combat it doesn't leave? Like, what does that imply?
Wait,
it's like,
guys,
you're not
the
out
liar's
of the
still
danger.
here.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Something's wrong. You know.
That's really cool.
I think it could also be interesting if, like, you know, you could add legends around this kind of thing, and then if your characters are misbehaving and then like a beautiful liar comes and saves them, it might kind of remind them that there are like otherworldly powers that observe them and like know what they're doing.
I would like it. I mean, it's mostly a flavor thing, but the concept of this magic item is only cool if you know it. But like, that's part of the thing that I don't love about attunement in general, is that sometimes there's like, how would you know that it would leave you when you stopped needing it unless you experienced that? Like, you just somehow go, wait a minute, I just know this will go away if I'm not in danger anymore. I would like it if that was maybe presented to the players as like, there's elvish inscription upon it that reads, in your greatest time of need, I will appear, but when the danger is past...
It's just the first Nanny McPhee book.
Yeah.
It's just written in elvish.
Yeah. But it, like, something like that where it's in-world explanation of it, to say like, oh, I can read the dwarven runes on this, and it says like, only a true like dwarf of the house of Morin can wield my sword or whatever, right? Like, and like, that is a cooler way than to say like, you attune to it, now you know that only a true dwarf of the house. It's like, that's less cool to me.
That gets me too sometimes when it's like, you spent a short rest with this item, so now I guess you know what it does. And it's like, but I think a lot of that is just really on the DM to like be a little bit creative about it. Give them a description that feels like it happened in world. Or if you've picked out at the start of your campaign or between sessions, you've picked out a few items, you were looking through homebrew stuff, and you're like, that's really cool, I want to use that.
Or just the
you
normal
could
magic
have
items.
but you could have the lore come up.
Right.
Like, you can make that part of your world and establish that as a legend that they come across so that you can use it later and get the payoff. So that's also an option. But I really like the idea of doing that kind of stuff anyway, that makes it feel like they're in a fleshed out universe that has things in it you don't know about, and that it isn't all just being like rendered in real time.
As opposed to just like a track of like Wild West backgrounds that you're quickly running through as they're running on a treadmill.
Yeah, spinning that, yeah.
I really, another thing that I really like about this is that it's an instrument of legend. Just because I like that idea of giving a bard like a cool legendary artifact, because
There's,
is
like,
sort of how music culture is, where it's
Yeah.
like this guitar was played by Elvis, like
This was
it's a
Kanye's
legend.
microphone, you know,
This was Kanye's Chipotle burrito.
or what's left of it.
Yeah.
But
Most
yeah,
of it.
But
He
yeah, I
wasn't
think
hungry.
that's cool, and I like incorporating that for bards, where it doesn't always have to be
Well,
a
in-
legendary sword.
Yeah, in the DMG, in the Dungeon Master's Guide, there's in the magic item section a section of legendary bardic instruments, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
They have like named. I can't.
they are from specific schools.
I can't think of a
Yeah.
They
single
are
one
different
off the top of my
rarity
head.
and power level.
Uh-huh.
And things.
But
I
but
really
they're
like
literally
that.
like Jimi Hendrix's lute or whatever, where it's like this is some famous bard school's like icon of their power, and it gives you different abilities.
and you stole it and ran away.
How are they
So-
different rarities? Even if the musician was less famous, there's still only one of that instrument.
Well, a lot of them are just instruments from a specific school. The very like the legendary rare ones are the ones that are
Okay.
like this was
Wonderful.
you know, Johnny Cash's guitar
Yeah,
kind of a
yeah,
thing.
Got
But some of
it.
them are just like Elvis touched this once, you know, and that's why it's magic.
Okay, fair enough.
This was made by the Elvis estate.
Okay,
I guess.
This was
Alright.
bought in Dollywood.
This can only cast
Dollywood.
Gust twice a day.
It was
Gotcha.
bought in Dollywood. You're like, kind of.
Okay.
It's sort of a magic item.
Sure. Real world magic items. What items in the real world be in Batman?
It only plays Jolene.
Yeah.
That's a very powerful magic item.
I know.
Because you just play it and everyone on the
But it's
battlefield
cursed
stops and
because
cries.
you can't turn it off.
You can't not play Jolene.
It plays itself constantly.
You played yourself. Thank you so much for bringing that magic item. Very good. I love the like idea that some without having necessarily their own sentience, magic items can do things like appear to you in your time of need,
Yeah,
right? Because it
yeah.
doesn't say it has like a spirit that lives within it that has a
No.
will. It's just like the quality of it is that it will show up for
It's
people
just
who need it.
enchanted.
Yeah, who would
Just
write a Deus Ex Machina weapon or magical item that has its own spirit inside of it that explains
You
things
always
to
make inside jokes about our campaign. The people listening
Who
don't know them.
Who would
They
ever
haven't-
put an old elf in a sword?
Who's like kind of mad about being in a sword.
This week I've brought a roguish archetype that is
Ooh.
based on, the inspiration to make it came from a video game that just released called Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. It is the newest game from Software, which is the people who made Dark Souls. A very difficult, challenging game.
Because you can only die twice in the game.
Yep, you can only die twice ever. Once you hit that second death, the game deletes itself from your machine, and
And you have to buy it again. It's
you-
the new arcade.
It's let's not give EA any ideas, but it is based in feudal Japan, and you play a shinobi named John Sekiro. His name's not John Sekiro. I just think that's a funny joke. And so yeah, this week I brought the roguish archetype shinobi from user Surrealistic on r/D&D Homebrew. So shinobi is just another word for ninja. It literally means a male ninja. So that's what they're going for here, is the vibe of a ninja in the sense of what the game portrays, which isn't necessarily like a shadow assassin, someone wrapped in darkness who just like kills in one blow and leaves, but more of like a well-trained martial artist who has like some tricks up their sleeve and is very acrobatic, which is more like what actual ninjas were originally anyway. So I'll read through the archetype. Skilled and versatile operatives, a shinobi combines many disciplines and techniques, incorporating stealth, movement, and combat prowess to form a flexible, adaptive whole far greater than the sum of its parts, drawing from a collected body of knowledge known as ninjutsu. Typically finding work as spies and assassins, they employ overall methods apparently similar to its peers in these lines of work, albeit refining their execution and synergy to a deadly art form that verges on perfection. When sought out by a determined shinobi, no quarry is safe. So you start off with your third level ability, Kunai and Katana. When you choose this archetype at third level, you master the use of thrown weapons as distractions to enable your killing stroke, setting your foe off balance. As a bonus action, you can make a ranged weapon attack with a light thrown finesse weapon. A lot of subtypes on that weapon.
So
Okay.
like two things.
If you do, and that attack hits, it deals half damage, and you don't need advantage to use your sneak attack against its target this turn.
Oh.
It's a way to grant yourself sneak attack
And
without
do a little extra damage.
a tiny bit. Yeah, you'll do half damage of like a thrown knife, which is like not going to be a lot. Half of a d4 plus your dex or whatever, you know. So a little tiny bit of bonus damage, but really it's themed as you threw like a ninja star at them to open them up, and now they're off balance, so you get your sneak attack on them, which is, I think, a cool vibe. I don't know. There's a couple different archetypes that let you get your sneak attack in different ways, but I like that as a. I've never seen that as a style of doing it before.
Right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Right out of the gate, I'm already thinking like, I mean, you're already basically having to hold a knife or a throwing star or something in that hand. If you're just holding a knife or a short sword in the other hand, you already get to make a bonus action attack, and it does full damage and is just another opportunity to get sneak attack if you already have it. This can be nice in a pinch if you need to get sneak attack, but like kind of what I've talked about before, like statistically speaking, having the opportunity to do 2 attacks is usually better than
one big attack.
One big attack.
That's true.
I mean,
that is
the
fair.
idea though, like
But
if you
yeah.
think about the classic ninja, they're loners, and
Yeah.
that's the tough thing about being a rogue is you're like, ooh,
Because you
I'll...
need someone else
That's
to
the
work.
thing is like you're
'Cause,
like, ooh, I'll be
your
by
first-
myself.
Your first
But you're a
attack,
party.
yeah, your first attack, you hit him with your short bow from hiding, but now you're not hiding anymore, and maybe there's not an opportunity for you to gain that like stealth again during the
Yeah.
fight. Maybe there's no other places for you to hide in the room, and now it's like, unless somebody else is helping me out, I just don't have sneak attack.
And that's the
for
thing
rest
is,
of
it's
the
like,
fight.
and then you're just stabbing people with a dagger, and it's actually not that much damage. And so finding a way of being like, okay, how can a rogue by themselves give themselves sneak attack?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Is a really cool
without
thing.
making it too good.
Yeah, because that's a classic ninja move. It's
Definitely.
just, like
Yeah.
think about like Daredevil.
Shinobi's Grace. Starting at 3rd level, you learn acrobatic techniques that enable you to regain your footing and evade the most vigilant combatants. This is interesting and it's a little complex, so I'll read through it carefully. When you take the disengage action, you can stand from prone and move up to half your speed. During this movement, you ignore difficult terrain and can move through enemies.
Okay.
So even if you're knocked
Okay.
prone, you get more movement.
And it's part of the disengage action, so you're not getting opportunity attacks on you.
That's a
And
great
you disengage as a bonus
So you
action
Get out of
basically
there.
disengage, stand up, and mini dash all
and
at
mini
once.
dash away.
Hmm.
And you can mini dash like through, if they've surrounded you, you can mini dash through people,
Right.
which is pretty solid.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I like the flavor of like you've knocked the shinobi down and you're like, what are you gonna do now? You're a jumpy boy.
And then he's just gone.
And then he's like, oh, getting out of here, and he just does a backflip off your head and like runs away. Like, I think that's pretty sweet. At 9th level, you get Sudden Strike. You learn how best to strike from the shadows to dispatch a target, unseen up until the very moment your blade has skewered its quarry. You can attempt to hide, even when only lightly obscured. You can't be tracked by non-magical means unless you choose to leave a trail. In addition, while hidden, if you haven't taken the dash action this turn, you can spend your action to move up to your speed and make a weapon attack, remaining hidden until that attack hits or misses, even while you are not obscured. If you do, you can't take the dash action this turn. Overall, one of my big things about this subclass is that it's cool, but it's a little complex.
Yeah.
Got them
Yeah.
words.
Lot of-
Which is, some people love that stuff, and I get it, but with 5th edition, like especially, simplification goes a long way. This is a really cool ability, but it is like, wait, what does this ability even do?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you can hide. Let's say you hide behind a tree, and you can run from hidden up to where the person is and make like a backstab on them and still have advantage from being hidden.
They have not noticed you until they
Yeah.
are being stabbed.
Even though you have moved out of being hidden and out of cover, they have not. Which is, in the game, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, a big part of it is like running up on people and like backstabbing them or cutting their throat and stuff like
Yeah.
that, which is the vibe of this, where you like quickly sprint up behind somebody and before they notice you, you plunge your katana through them, and there's like a Kurosawa-esque blood fountain that
I mean,
happens.
that's also very. This is
Lot of
one of the
doves.
only video games I've played, but that's also very Hitman. Of like,
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
walk right up behind people, and as long as you are not like in their exact field of vision, You can be dressed as a flamingo carrying a fireman's axe behind them, and they're just like, this is fine.
This is normal.
This is
We're all
just-
cool with this.
You could just flavor this as Skyrim Sneak 100. You just like walk up to someone, stab them in the face,
They
and the
turn
person
around.
next to them looks at you and says, "Must have been the wind."
Well, no, that's not exactly how it works.
But it's just
As soon
basically
as
This
the
is
attack-
actually the opposite.
yeah, as
yeah,
soon as-
yeah, I know.
if you're hidden and you go to attack someone, you carry the hidden property
Until
with
they're
you.
stabbed.
It lets
Yeah.
you make melee attacks from hidden, is what it does.
Which is very cool.
Which is kind of spicy.
That's very cool.
I like that ability.
Because normally what you do as a rogue is if you hide, you're giving yourself advantage, so you make a ranged attack, which is like fine. But if
What if you want to be a
if
stab
your
boy?
melee weapon does more damage or has a better to hit than your ranged weapon, like maybe it's a magic, you have a magic katana, but you have a normal short bow.
Yeah.
It's like a +1 magic katana. That's going to be a better chance of you dealing damage and hitting. So you're going to want to do that instead.
And if you have the ability, and if you get sneak attack, especially if you can grant yourself sneak attack,
Yeah.
you might be able to take that guy out in one hit and remain hidden again. And like,
No, even if it hits it, you lose hidden.
no,
Yeah,
I'm
if
saying
if it-
after you kill that guy.
Oh, if there's no one
hide,
else around.
Yeah, like
gotcha.
hide again,
Gotcha.
and then you can just completely stay
You
hidden
can just
if no
one
one else.
person at a time.
Yeah, if no one else
just
has seen
chain
you.
behind hay bear.
Well,
bales.
Yeah, basically you just
Sort of a
rema-
hitman style. If no one else is in the room, you can just walk out of the room and then go up to the next person alone in a room.
Yeah,
Or you bring people into your room and there's just a growing pile of bodies as one at a time people walk into your
Well,
room.
picture
keep
that
throwing
movie
coins.
scene though, where like you single-handedly ambush a group of people in a clearing
Mhm.
because you run out, you stab someone,
Uh-huh.
the people near them just hear, "Huh!" and they look over, and you have your sword through someone's gut, and then they make one attack, like they get an attack off on you, and now it's your turn again, and you do your disengage dash ability that you get,
You
and you
jump away.
disappear back into the shadows, and you're just running
Or-
in one by one, taking them out, and they just can't peg you down. Like, that's pretty cool.
Or if you are trapped in the room with them, you can keep giving yourself sneak attack by throwing your kunai at them. And
Yeah.
as your bonus action, hitting them with a dagger and then getting another sneak attack katana strike.
yeah.
Kind of sweet.
It's also that's also kind of a
sweet.
very Batman
Mhm.
flavor
Very
of
Batman,
just
very
like
Batman.
he stays hidden until he punches you, and then they see him, and then he goes back to being hidden, and he's
Definitely.
gonna stay hidden until his
Ooh.
fist is in your face.
Homebrew crossover, Shinobi who thinks they're Santa.
Mhm.
The
From our Batman of Christmas
Oh,
episode.
man.
Nice.
I just said the Batman of Christmas on
Christmas.
accident.
Nice.
Like
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, the DM.
That's
for
gotta
your
be a critical
Christmas.
role
It
thing
is.
already.
I was
I'm
gonna
not
say,
sure.
oh, really?
That
This
is
is a
very
very-
much. That's just. I think Christmas is just whenever they get a lot of presents and are sent, and so they just pile them up and open them all at
They do
once.
Yeah, I was
mail
gonna say
time.
that should just be for your for your Christmas session. Your DM just like gives you each a natural 20 for
you can
one of
use
your rolls during the
during
session.
the session.
Yeah, you can be
cool.
like,
Yeah.
what if instead that was a 20?
I just think we should say Christmas one more time, and maybe people will think we're Critical Role and keep listening.
Hi, everyone. It's it's me, Marisha Ray. Welcome to our podcast.
Hi, I'm professional voice actor and Emmy-winning Sam Riegel. Apparently.
I'm Trinket.
No, you read the script wrong.
Oh,
It's me again. I'm also Laura Bailey.
But so to actually bring this back, this is very this ability is very similar to actually the one of the Unearthed Arcana sections they came out with a couple of years ago now. I think I can't remember when it actually came out, but it was feats for skills specifically. Like
Oh, interesting.
each feat like came up. That's where we get brawny, where it's like you get +1 strength, you are doubly proficient in athletics, and you are stronger as though you were one size bigger, kind of a thing.
Cool.
And there's the stealth one is you get +1 to dexterity, you get double proficiency, or I think it's expertise technically. You get expertise in stealth, and you can move 10 feet out of stealth and remain in stealth. Like
Okay,
you can
so
move
yeah,
10 feet out and 10
similar.
feet back.
Sure.
And as long as or like you can move between barrels that are 10 feet apart and no one will see you.
That's cool.
But that's very interesting, and I kind of like the way this is honestly worded better a little bit,
Oh yeah.
or the implications of this ability. But that's another thing too, is that now it has brought forth an idea that you didn't necessarily know was in the game until these rules were there to circumvent it. Where it's like, but I couldn't do that before, question mark? Like, I
Yeah,
couldn't
that's
be hidden and then sneak out and try to stab someone.
Oh, yeah.
Like, did they automatically see me before, or do I just keep having to make stealth rolls? Now that there are these abilities that have the
Yeah.
implications of leaving cover.
You have to make a stealth roll for every 5 feet of movement.
Yeah, you have to
No,
make.
yeah.
It's like,
I'm
did he look or
pretty
turn
sure-
around? Did he turn around? Did he turn around? No, you know.
I'm pretty sure that in I think it's in the player's handbook, but I might be wrong.
Yeah.
Is basically it says that like during combat, it doesn't matter where you are unless you're in full cover.
You cannot be hidden.
cannot be hidden unless you have an ability that says otherwise. So like some people can be hidden in like light or half cover
In
or
mist.
like lightly obscured, that kind of stuff.
If you have
That's fine.
Skulker.
But like because in D&D what way you're facing doesn't come up, it's not a mechanic. In combat you are facing every direction, right?
Yeah.
There's not a front side of you and a back side of you in combat. There's just if they come at you from any direction, you see them.
Well, and because life isn't like video games.
Yeah.
You don't. If you're on patrol, you do not walk somewhere and then casually only stare one direction with my back turned and my defense is lowered. You know, in real life, if you're
Leaning
in
over a precarious cliff.
But if you're in a hostile situation, you're gonna like
be looking around.
Yeah.
almost
You're on
every
your guard,
single
yeah.
direction.
Especially when every turn represents 6 seconds of you actively moving and dodging and fighting. Like, you're not just looking in one direction and doing a single arm movement. You are actively looking around at your friends and trying to see where all the bad guys are. And so, yeah, that's why that ends up coming up as a mechanic.
And you run into trouble as a DM when you try to pull things like that, where it's like, but you didn't see them running around the corner. It's like, but I should have been able to.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't say I wasn't looking over there, you know, kind of a thing.
I feel like everyone has always run into a rogue at some point. And I definitely did this in the beginning until I started to understand it. But it's like you're in like a gladiator arena. There's just sand and walls and that's it. And they're like, I hide somewhere. And you're like, no, you can't do that. The person
Yeah.
has seen you. They are currently looking at you. So even if you hid, they
would know where you hid.
know where you were.
Yeah.
And even then, it's just a wall. You can't cronk it and like go up to the
If
side.
you could get on the other side of the wall, we could talk.
Yeah.
But you are trapped.
Does Kronk like think he's a rogue? But what is Kronk actually? Is Kronk a bard?
No, Kronk's
a bard.
No, Kronk is a Beastmaster Ranger.
Yeah, you're
And
right.
his
you're
animal
right.
Because he
companion
has the
is squirrel.
squirrels.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Let's go to the next ability. We got 2 left, and then we're done with the subclass. So, Movement Unbound. At 13th level, you study sophisticated methods enabling you to scale sheer walls, survive deadly plummets, or plumes, and evade otherwise certain capture, such that no obstacle can deter you, nor foe detain you. Great sentence. I like it. You have a climb speed equal to your walk speed, while you have a climber's kit on your person.
So you gotta have the equipment.
In Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, you have a grappling hook that you can use to like scale buildings. But it's like he has a prosthetic arm and the hand shoots off of it.
Very fun.
It's very cool.
Oh.
It's like fantasy technology
Wait,
stuff.
we've been watching Colin Furs on YouTube. It's
That's
like
the guy who builds it.
building the switch out hatchet and the
Yeah,
umbrella shield.
Yep. It has a bunch of like items built into it that he can change between. Where sometimes it's got like launchable ninja stars in it. Other times it's got like a shield that expands out from the prosthetic arm. But one of them is that the prosthetic arm can be a grappling hook with an seemingly infinite amount of rope. But don't worry about it.
It's all the ligaments.
So, as
from
long
his
as you have a
body.
climber's kit, which is like saying like your prosthetic arm, basically, you get a climb speed equal to your walk speed, so you can scale walls really easily. Further, you can use your reaction when you fall to reduce any falling damage you take by an amount equal to 5 times your rogue level.
We're getting into some monk
So
stuff.
this is the
Yeah.
rogue if he were a monk a little bit, though.
It a little
Yeah.
bit steals
He's a
the
little
thunder,
monk-alicious.
maybe.
I was wondering from the beginning why this wasn't a monk build.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Because it's
It's
about
built around the
stealth,
sneak attack, is
yeah.
why.
yeah,
All
I
these
guess
things are about granting you sneak attack.
And
And
just
I-
giving a
allowing you
monk sneak attack
would break the
would
game.
be
It would tear a
That-
hole in the universe.
that'd be real bad.
But then does making someone with sneak attack also be a monk break the universe?
To be fair, these are first of all, you're getting these abilities much later in level
That's
than
true.
monks.
Yeah.
And
Like
they are
monks gain the ability to walk up sheer surfaces at level 9. This is level 13, and you're getting 2 of those abilities that monks have. and not anything else. And these are relatively circumstantial while very useful.
Yeah, definitely. There's one
but
final part of it too. Lastly, when you are attacked or are forced to make a saving throw, you can spend your reaction to take the disengage action immediately after that attack or saving throw resolves.
Huh?
I don't really get, maybe for when they do like multiple attacks on their turn, you take it after the first, but disengage
on someone else's turn doesn't do anything.
Maybe they meant the dodge action. Maybe that's a typo.
I think they might have meant
and
that.
they might have intended it to be, because dodge would give them disadvantage on attacks against you, which is helpful on other people's turns. But disengage just means that you can move.
But
disengage means that you do not trigger opportunity attacks,
which
you cannot do when it's not your turn.
Yeah.
But it says after it resolves, so giving them disadvantage wouldn't make any difference.
But I was saying that if it
resolved.
was like, oh, they started to attack me, I take the dodge action so that the next two attacks that they make, because they chose me as opposed to somebody else.
I guess.
But I was waiting to see, because I didn't want to use it on my turn. I wanted to use it only when I needed it.
It's weirdly phrased.
It is a weird.
Especially, too, considering it might not even be that ability kind of thing.
I don't know.
Well, because the disengage action is what it says, and disengage is different.
Yeah.
In this, because disengage also lets you...
Because it is.
Oh!
Yeah, it's not regular disengage.
You get to use your shinobi's grace.
Yeah.
When you take the disengage action, you can move up to half your speed. During that movement, you ignore difficult terrain.
So it's about you getting attacked and then leaving immediately.
So what would have probably made that
interesting,
more understandable? Because we did eventually figure it out, but that maybe having that be tied to the dodge action, because now, or not dodge, but the dash action. Because another problem I have with this is, one, a lot of these abilities should probably be separated out into different abilities instead of all being kind of clumped together.
A couple of these are like 3 abilities all stapled onto each other. Yeah.
But another thing too is that it's like, by making disengage also a little bit of a dash,
you're starting to blur
and then also like there's the rules about the other thing where if you didn't take the dash this turn, why would I ever take the dash action? I could just disengage, which is now both of those movements.
True.
And so that's one of those things where it's like, wow, that is a cool idea and I like it. You don't want to do something like kind of like what Mercy was talking about. You don't want to give the rogue monk abilities and now the monk's going like, oh, I should have been that cool rogue instead. You don't want to, like, not that bonus actions can have feelings, but you don't want to do something that it negates the entire purpose of having another kind of action.
That's fair.
In the game.
Yeah, I agree. The final ability is, it's fine. It's just basically you're just like, it's level 17. You're great at everything now. At 17th level, it's called Master Shinobi. At 17th level, you gain full mastery over your accumulated techniques, now utilizing them to their utmost potential. You now count yourself among the legendary practitioners of ninjutsu and gain the following benefits. You can't be surprised and have advantage on initiative rolls.
So that's the alert feat.
Basically.
Yep. Attacks made with your kunai and katana feature now grant advantage on the next attack made against the target they hit until the start of the target's next turn and no longer have their damage.
Ooh.
You don't need a climber's kit to have the climb speed from movements unbound. Disengage now allows you to move up to your speed. Disengage is now the dash action.
Yeah.
It's the dash, but you don't get an opportunity attack.
Uh-huh.
See, it would just
It's
be
just
better
a
if you
better
said,
dash.
when you dash, you don't provoke opportunity attacks.
Or when you disengage, you get to also take the dash action as part of that action. But whatever, it's fine. Attacks made with your sudden strike feature deal extra damage on a hit equal to half your rogue level. Overall, I'm pretty sure, looking over this, it's a little bit just too much. I think simplifying, honing in on a couple of very specific things. I get that what they were doing is they were trying to cover all the bases of making you feel like the character from the game.
Yeah.
You want to be able to do the grappling hook. You want to sneak up on guys and do a katana in the back. You want to be able to like jump off of and have like no fall damage, basically. Like jump off of a roof and land perfectly silently. All that stuff is cool, but I think it is just too much for a D&D subclass.
I think, too, there's a different kind of homebrew where, you know, a lot of the stuff we've looked at in the past that is based in like a real character or a real show or whatever, people will either try to take everything about that thing and translate it exactly, and there is no Rosetta Stone for that kind of thing.
Or just
be like, it is inspired vaguely by this kind of stuff.
That kind of stuff is great for like, just to use at your own personal table, especially if everyone does that kind of a thing, that's cool. You're
That'd
like
be cool.
doing
Everyone picks a character.
yeah, where like you're doing I'm playing as Wolverine and
We're the Scooby Gang.
Oh. Or like I'm playing as John Sekiro or whoever, whatever. And having that all be because in relative power to each other, you'll feel balanced. But if you want this to be more broadly accepted and be a cool alternative that anybody could just pick up and slot right into their game, you do need to make it with the other classes of like normal, like vanilla 5th edition in mind.
Additionally, when you go into building a character, because I often will do builds of characters, not necessarily because I am the eternal DM, and so I'm making characters that might be NPCs one day, kind of a thing. But one of the things you need to think about, especially when you're making a class or a subclass, is could they make this with feats? And I feel like you could do a lot of what is done here, or like if you are this shinobi subclass, I want to take the alert feat at a certain point, so I'm really good and no one can sneak up on me. And then you get to that level 17 ability, and then only part of it applies to you because that's just the alert feat kind of a thing. And then you got to be careful too, because like, oh, I want to take the mobile feat, but it doesn't matter because I'm never getting triggering opportunity attacks anyways because I'm disengaging the whole time because of this ability kind of thing. Or would an assassin that has mobile and alert be just this or just as effective kind of thing?
Some of the bits where you stapled on a couple extra abilities, you could have those be, if you want that flavor, you can take this feat that gives a similar result. But also you're allowed to build it without that as part of it and have it be a more streamlined version of the subclass.
In a little bit of a more lighthearted campaign that we've played together, Thomas wanted to make Geralt of Rivia from Witcher 3.
I'm sorry, did you just describe our spooky campaign in which I delve into all of the aspects of eldritch body horror a little bit lighter in tone?
That's just because all of us act like morons when we play it.
I act very serious and I do my best Geralt voice.
Yeah, but exactly. So Thomas didn't make a homebrew class for it. He just picked an existing subclass and then was like, that seems like it's the closest. But what was kind of funny about it is because to have it still be balanced within D&D, it can't be a perfect one-to-one. It sort of ended up being like a bad copy of Geralt of Rivia.
Like a bad photocopy.
Yeah, so he is actually playing Gerald of the Riviera because it's not quite Geralt
He's not
of Rivia.
quite as good as Geralt.
And it is that thing where for it to be as good as Geralt, it would have to be a little bit OP because Geralt is the hero of that game. He isn't like balanced with a party.
Yeah. He's just got all of the best skills because he's the only character
so he
that
doesn't,
matters.
because I something that's very important to me when looking at homebrew classes is making sure that you're not going to step on other party members' toes. Where it's like if your bard wants to be the charismatic one, and then sometimes I almost feel like it can even be like, oh, the warlock.
Are you directing this at me? Are you trying to say?
But I think sometimes it can even be like disappointing if somehow the warlock ended up with like higher charisma than you and you're like, why am I even here? You know?
Yeah.
And so I think that there's something important about that. Whereas like, so if you're making a character based on a solo hero, you might just have to think about that fact where they weren't built to not step on other people's toes. But it's no fun to be in a party when it's like, I'm the barbarian, but I guess your homebrew race is actually better at being a tank than me, so I don't know why I played.
Yeah.
That kind of actually brings up a point. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast, but it's what I call Han Solo syndrome, where everyone tries to be the lone wolf character all at the same time.
And four
It's
lone
the
wolves
worst.
hanging out together.
I mean, I literally was DMing at a local game store, and I was setting the scene. All the characters were introducing each other in the tavern like you do.
I remember this.
And it was one of my favorite moments when they're like, okay, I'm sitting over in the corner. It's like, all right, you see sitting over in the shadowy corner this tiefling, and he's covered in leather with you know studded leather.
Covered in it.
Yeah, just covered in the stuff. And he's just like sipping out of his ale mug, things like that. And the next character got introduced, and he was like, all right, I'm sitting in the corner. It's like, okay, you see this kind of rugged looking, bearded man off in the distance. You would almost describe him as a cowboy. And then someone else was like, all right, I'm in the corner. And I was like, guys, there's only 4 corners. Someone has to be in the middle of the room. And someone has to be you can't all be in the corner.
and Ned the drunk is taking up one of them. him, and he's an NPC. And
He's
I'm
an NPC.
Not moving him.
I am not reprogramming this room to move him.
I'm not putting in another corner.
Oh my gosh,
in this
that's how
room.
you force your like lone wolf characters to get to know each other. Is the bar? You're like
It's a circular bar.
there are no all. It's a circular bar, and anywhere that would be corner-ish is already taken. The only table is in the middle.
Guys, that would be okay. Real like actual cool idea though. Breakdown time. When you're pitching your game, you say, guys, everyone, we've all agreed to play a game of D&D together. Cool. There's 4 of you being the players. Great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to present a tavern. There are 5 available spots in the tavern to be sitting. Each of them is at a different place and means a different thing. And you have to each pick like which one, and you can't pick the same one as another person. So we'll go around and it's like, okay, well, I want to pick the shadowy corner. It's like, okay, well, that guy's... No one else can be the shadowy corner guy now. He already picked it.
You roll initiative on who gets to pick which seat
And the next
first.
guy's like, okay, well, I guess I sit at this table with their, playing cards with a group of, like, dwarves. It's like, cool, okay, he's the one doing, like, the raucous game of cards with the dwarves. No one else can be that guy. And that, like, you assign basically, like...
the party roles.
The party roles in character, but through, like, where you were in the tavern. I think that'd be... You're in the bathroom. You're the bathroom guy.
Oh, no.
We don't want one of those.
No,
guys.
and the reason I bring that up is because DMs at a certain point are also players, and so people who create homebrew are also probably wanting to play those things.
Yeah.
And so we can often fall into the same trap that players do, where we want to be the lone wolf, we want to be the Geralt, we want to be the solo video game player in a game intrinsically about cooperation.
Yeah.
And
D&D is a cooperative storytelling game.
and so even the DMs can fall prey to that. And so it's important to take into note when you're making something, will this work well in a party, or will this just be because all of his abilities require him to be alone, or because of all of his abilities work while he's alone, he doesn't care about anyone else. When intrinsically, I don't know if they intentionally did that with the rogues. We made the joke earlier that the base rogue sneak attack only works if you have friends.
Yeah,
and I don't know if they did that on purpose.
It's built into the game that
So
you
that-
want to have
So
friends.
that the rogue, who is typically the loner runaway character who doesn't care about anyone, literally has to care about someone, or his primary function doesn't work.
If that was on purpose, I think it was a good move.
Yeah.
Very good design. And yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say about it. I really like the archetype overall in concept. Like, I love the flavor of it. I just think that, like we've talked about, it might have just gotten too many good things put in it, where it needs to feel a little more balanced with the rest of a party. But the ideas are cool. All right, Bean, what have you brought us?
Okay, so I was realizing the other day, so I was needing to design a background for another project I was working on, and I realized we haven't reviewed a background, a homebrew background. Part of the reason is because, at least how it is in D&D 5th edition, backgrounds don't have as much, like, apparent oomph as other things do.
Yeah, they're a little light.
They are a little light, but you can... as I was perusing, people, like, make their backgrounds more in depth than others.
Definitely.
And there are so many backgrounds that you can have, like, you roll a d8 and then it also determines, like, another little thing, or, like, a subsection
cool.
of that background. Like, I know they have that in Criminal, but they also...
I think they have that in Clancrafter.
Yeah.
Or not Clancrafter.
But so
Craftsman.
Guild Artisan.
yeah, because of that, a lot of people's homebrew backgrounds actually have a lot more options than your typical background would. So some people get really specific. They're like, because you're a plucky, gung-ho guy that loves chicken tenders. But then some people are just like, you're a farmer, you got some rough hands, and you smell like straw. And, you know, it just sort of depends on...
But there are, like, cool aspects to backgrounds. Like, they all have, like, different kinds of starting equipment.
Yep.
They all have different, like, proficiencies and things. And then everything has a feature. Every background has a feature. And I think that's where some of the unique
that's the main
qualities can come to light.
That is the main thing, is, like, you know, you're criminal, you get that in with the criminal underground. Folk hero, people like you.
Yeah.
And that, to me, actually
Common
informs
people like
your... Okay.
Dirty peasants like.
It informs your role-playing stuff. And a lot of these will have suggested personality traits or sort of like, hey, this is the type of person you are. And for me, I think actually so much of that, because it doesn't change too much about your character mechanics-wise, backgrounds can be a great place to experiment with taking your characters different directions, because sometimes you always get people that are like, well, I want to be a barbarian, but I don't want to fight so much, so maybe I won't have that much strength. And you're like, no, don't do that. But you
have
can be
strength,
like,
please,
I'm a barbarian, but
have the noble background.
I'm gonna make my background noble, or like cloistered scholar. So that way you can
I have
get
studied
a good flavor.
punch in my tower for decades.
It's hilarious.
I have studied all of the books of Smash.
Well, it's just all of the books have little
No,
dents
that's-
in them.
that's-
He's got little
Guys,
reading
that's
glasses and
just-
scrolls.
That's just Bruce Banner, a cloistered scholar barbarian.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay,
But
alright.
see, that way you can get that flavor of like, I am not the normal version of this thing, but it doesn't have to like destroy the
You can get a really
mechanics.
unique flavor.
Backgrounds are one of my favorite additions
Oh, yeah.
in 5th edition. Like, they really like have fleshed it out as this concept. I think there's a lot of potential in it for future editions.
And here's the thing, we were just talking about like, try not to go too crazy with certain things because it can destroy. You can go a little bit more crazy with backgrounds because
Totally.
there's, I mean, you can't say, and you have 7 proficiencies.
It doesn't
like,
affect the party as much.
No, it doesn't. So you can kind of add a lot of those
you can just
weird-
give yourself the weirdest, most powerful, most corner case ability of all time.
Well,
with it.
anyway,
Yeah, what
that's
have you
why
brought?
that's why I think homebrew backgrounds are really fun, and they're a great place for other people to experiment, and they're a great place to inspire role-playing ideas. I am, because they're a little bit smaller concept-wise, I have brought 2. The first one's called "Are We the Baddies?" For anyone
You
that
have to
doesn't
say it in that accent.
For anyone that doesn't know that reference, there's a great show called That Mitchell and Webb Look, and they have a skit in it called Are We the Baddies? And it's about people in the Nazi army slowly realizing that the Nazis are definitely the bad guys. Being like, wait, but we have skulls on our uniforms. And they're like, well, but pirates have skulls, and pirates are fun. Yes, but they're also the baddies. And they're just like,
Wait a minute.
Oh, no.
We're on the wrong
Also-
side.
We were making fun of your accents earlier. That was a spot on both Mitchell and Webb
thank you.
accent.
Can you do Webb, but he's Grover? And then Mitchell is Kermit?
No, do not.
Okay, let's just read it. Let's go.
Don't
Oh, you
break
just
her.
broke my larynx.
Read me the background.
Okay. So are we the baddies? Your people are not known for their heroism. In fact, quite the opposite. You kind of are the bad guys, ambushing adventurers on the roads, attacking unprotected villages, and often finding themselves recruiting into the army of the greater villain. Oh, by the way, this was made by... We're so good at the crediting people part.
Mhm.
This was made by Super Crescendo.
Super underscore Crescendo.
Crescendo.
Yep.
That's how it's pronounced. But not you, for some reason, whether it be a run, but not you are a bad guy.
Yeah.
For some reason, whether it be a run-in with a kind adventurer that showed you mercy, the intervention of a deity, or simply a yearning to be more than the world sees you as, you've chosen to turn over all the leaves and have set out to become a hero. So this is the background of, and a lot of people do this, I'm from a bad organization, but I'm trying to be good. And of
Mhm.
course, I like the idea that, because in the original skit, it's these guys that are good guys, but they are in the Nazi army, and they don't really realize that the Nazis are bad.
Mhm.
You could either play it as intentionally you're going against your thing, or you are part of a bad
Or
organization,
inadvertently.
and you have no idea that they are, like, very much.
I personally take offense that Orc is one of the available languages.
But anyway,
Orcs in the monster
so skill
manual.
proficiencies, you have proficiencies in intimidation and survival.
Mhm.
I think those are fine.
Yep.
Languages, choose 2 of the following: Draconic, Giant, Goblin, Gnoll, Infernal, Orc, or Undercommon. All the evil languages.
All right, not all of them. Elves can be mean too sometimes.
But it's all the stereotypical
Yeah.
bad guys.
It's
that you
all
run
the
into.
monster races.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's all the monstrous races.
I will throw it
That's
out there.
okay.
I think it's interesting that they chose survival as a skill proficiency. I don't think it's bad. I think it's
Well,
great.
it's probably because you're not accepted into public society and you have to learn
Because
how
you
to
live in your
forage.
Live
little
on the outskirts.
campground.
That's
yeah.
fair.
Because I think what it's being implied by those languages is that you're not probably like you could be a human and take this background, obviously, but it is implying that maybe you're a gnoll and one day you looked around at all the other hyenas, like eating
people.
people's souls or whatever, and you're like, wait a minute,
This is
we laugh a lot, but this isn't very funny.
How long were you waiting on that one?
I
my
came up with
gosh.
that on the spot.
So good.
But then you go, oh, and then you kind of sneak away, and now you're just a gnoll who's like, what do I do in the world?
Everyone tries to stab me in the
on
eye.
sight, like, yeah.
Yeah.
This is definitely Finn from Star Wars'
Yeah?
background.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Finn knows
so
Orcish.
here is your your equipment.
Why?
My theory for episode 9 is Finn knows Orcish.
What is that? But what
That's
does that
my
mean for
fan
the episode?
theory.
That
Like, he
means
just
nothing.
knows it.
That means nothing in the Star Wars universe.
Finn speaks Draconic.
Finn inadvertently knows
J.K.
Orcish.
Rowling just tweeted out that Finn knows Orcish. It's actually a really complicated issue with him and his orc lover from a previous life.
That will never be brought up in this narrative.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
You can't do that. The movie already came out, JK.
Y'all are slaying it.
All right,
Okay.
equipment.
Equipment. A hooded cloak,
Mhm.
because you're evil.
Well, because you're hiding too.
Yeah.
Most likely.
A set of common clothes. A keepsake liberated from an adventurer.
For italics.
No, italics is a
Oh, sorry.
keepsake liberated.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a keepsake liberated. So very windy.
No,
sound.
it's a keepsake
And then you just tilt. Okay.
liberated.
Yeah, now you're just.
I leaned
silence.
over.
Yeah,
I don't know if you could hear it.
I don't know if you could see that through the microphone.
No, it sounded sideways.
What else do you have in your?
From an adventurer. A pouch containing 10 gold pieces, either a crowbar, a mining pick, or a hunting trap.
Okay.
So yeah, you're from like a roving band of baddies.
Yeah.
Features. Harmful stereotypes. You may not be evil, but they don't know that. Most common folk aren't used to seeing your kind strolling down the street or browsing in the local store, and would be inclined to keep their distance. Flashing your teeth or claws or making some other intimidating gesture would likely scare them off. So it's almost the opposite of folk heroes. Just people are a
People
little
will
scared
generally
of you.
leave you alone.
Yep.
Yeah.
And would
So-
probably also assume that you're like not a good person.
So I'm sorry, is racism here is a feature?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
I think
Yeah.
it's essentially saying you kind of like, for
You
most common people, you guarantee intimidation success. Like you can just,
You can just
you don't
go,
have to roll for intimidation checks on most people. They are intimidated by
I
it.
mean, and it is just the classic, like, you are from the stereotypical, and you might be a human, but it's just that you have, like, all the
You're
bandit
bandit,
robes,
yeah.
and just everyone's like,
You're,
But I do have the hand, like the white hand of Sauron on my face.
Uh-huh.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, you're just at,
Guys, I was real young and they were handing out pamphlets.
like, you're just at CVS, and, like, an orc with the white hand of Saruman just comes up and is like, where's the decongestants? And you're like, oh my gosh!
Please don't kill me. He's like, no, dude, I'm just looking for
Dude,
decongestion.
I couldn't kill you if I wanted to. I cannot breathe.
Look
I-
at me. Look
Will-
at this
Will you kill
mucus.
me, please? I'm
Yeah.
so...
Now, also, to bring that up, this is also very similar to the alternate to the sailor background,
Pirate.
where you have the pirate option where you're
Mhm.
just a scary boy and you can
Mhm.
scare most people into doing something for
Yeah.
you.
Uh-huh.
And this is just kind of a more generalized, like, anti-folk
Yeah.
hero kind
I
of
mean,
a thing,
but
version of it.
See, it's cool because it doesn't really change anything about the mechanics of your character. It
Yeah.
gives you those proficiencies
Yeah.
in your equipment, but like it's just this informs who you are and it's cool.
Yeah.
Then there's some suggested characteristics. Let's roll a d8.
Okay, it's a 6.
tink, tink, tink.
I knew it before.
How did you did it before the dice roll.
It was, I've taken a
He
level in
multi-classed
divination.
into a
wizard.
divination wizard,
okay.
yeah.
I revel in my strength and enjoy breaking things. So you also just kind of keep that like, oh no, you
Must
know,
smash.
this is from Rapunzel,
Becky.
where they go to the bar and all of the like barbarians
yeah.
inside are
the
like,
snuggly duckling.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're like singing about all the good things they want to do, but they're like still breaking stuff.
And like
so-
throwing knives and things.
Yeah, you just. But
Sure.
so that's like you keep your like gruffness from the evil group.
And then it has an ideal, a bond, and a flaw.
Yeah, and like it's just like, you know, people, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Mhm.
Bond, something important was taken from me, I aim to steal it back. Flaw, if there's a plan, I'll forget it. If I don't forget it, I'll ignore it. You know, it's just like, but you kind of keep that rough around the edges, like,
Vibe.
you
Yeah,
know,
sure.
I'm trying to be better.
I dig it.
And so that's I mean, it's great because it's comes from a joke, but it's also like
Pretty serious. Like
pretty
it works.
serious, wonderful background.
You don't have to play that as a joke, though you easily could.
Yeah. And see, that's what I'm saying. Either way, like, it is that you left your clan, but I like the flavor that, like, you just grew up in a barbarian like bandit society and you just don't know that they're evil. But it's up to you. You can take it any direction you
All
want.
barbarians are evil, right?
Now that we brought that up as a joke, though, I kind of want to make like an orcish character that is proselytizing for the, like, is a recruiter for the army of Saruman.
The army
But
of
he's just like, guys, we've got really good benefits.
Maleficus, the Dark Lord Maleficus.
Yeah.
Our recurring bad guy that we use in all of our examples.
I mean, they do that in Hello from the Magic Tavern.
Oh,
all the
yeah, they
time.
do that.
They're like,
He
"Hey,
shows up and he's like, I just, ever since we've embraced the Dark Lord, my wife and I really feel like our relationship has been more fulfilling, you know?
Yeah. Or like, even if it's not the Dark Lord, it's like, he'll talk about his organization and then they're like, oh, it's very much an evil cult. Or like,
Oh,
it's very
God.
much like...
Sorry, old habit, guys. Sorry about that.
It's like a group of marauding terror, evil people, and they're like, I just think you should join. And there's just like...
I don't think.
Like, everybody gets at least, like, 20% of the cut. It's amazing. Like, it's really good.
Kind of what? Well, the spoils. Oh, spoils.
The-
Let's see. That's
You
not
know,
what
when
we
you-
call
when you
them.
say it out
We
loud.
call them,
We call them quarterly earnings.
Because you have to cut people
Guys,
into quarters.
No. Oh, it's an MLM. the evil army is like a multi-tiered, multi-level marketing scheme.
It's like they just try to sell you oils.
Look, and then you just have to find 2 other orc friends. And then they find 2 orc friends.
Look, lip
Eventually,
stain,
you
no
run
come
out
off.
of orc friends.
Have you ever wanted to be your own commander?
I find all of these orcish accents.
We
that
sound
you guys,
exactly like you. I don't know how you
I
know which
find
of
them
us we're
very
talking.
offensive and stereotyping.
If you could hear a difference between what we just sounded like and what Onog sounds like all the time, comment below.
I was being Grover.
Now we have to keep that in so they understand the joke.
Oh man.
Grover on Sesame Street selling like letters. Long-lasting letters. My Grover's sort of a Yoda sometimes.
Well,
Very Yoda.
I mean,
pro tip:
Yeah,
Grover
it's
was sort of a
Frank
Yoda
Oz, I know.
sometimes.
yeah, okay.
All right, what's your?
He
You
was
still
also
brought
sort of
another
a Fozzie, a
Here's
Ralph,
a-
and Dr. Teeth.
one. I think so.
Anyway, and director of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, one of the best.
Oh,
movies
that's
of all time.
right.
Oh,
Anyway,
that was a good one.
so here's another background, real quick. Detective. For a significant portion of your life. Oh, wait.
I'm definitely putting in like a jazz riff right there.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, hold on. Okay. So this was created by...
the detective.
I'm not seeing who it was created by.
If you scroll down,
I know,
to
I'm
the
down at the
V
bottom. And it just says
Ex
tags.
Moen the Jotun.
Okay, I can't see that, so thank you for... Okay,
Well,
here.
He's a Jotun.
Ex Moen the Jotun. Yeah,
Okay.
he's a giant.
I'll do this properly so that the musical cue makes sense.
Okay.
Detective. For a significant portion of your
You're gonna
life.
have to be close to the mic if you're gonna talk that quietly.
For a significant portion of your life, you've been searching for answers. Mysteries have always fascinated you, and solving them has made you become far better at searching for clues and reading people.
And dames.
And dames.
With
And-
legs all the way up.
Oh, the legs go all above her head, all the way past her shoulders. They keep going up.
What answers were you searching for? Did you always find satisfying answers to questions? Or was there one answer that you wish you could forget?
Very good.
Have your inquiries made enemies or friends? In any case, it's landed you a job as a detective. Perhaps as a paying job or for a specific city, perhaps as a wanderer with a mystery-solving hobby.
Okay, so this is when we do our Scooby Gang.
Yeah.
This is our background.
Zoinks!
Skill
Okay,
proficiencies.
you're being the Shaggy.
Would I have been anything else?
I was picturing you as a Velma.
I'll take it.
You're the one who's thinking through the plans.
You're a Daphne.
Yeah, I'm the.
What?
Daphne.
I'm not thinking of the plans. I'm a mastermind.
No, you're building
rogue.
traps.
No, you're
a
definitely
Fred.
Fred. Who?
You're
Oh,
obviously
okay.
Fred.
I'll take Fred.
Wait, who's Scooby?
Do I love?
I guess me.
No, you're the other remaining human being in the show. You're Shaggy.
I thought you just said he was Shaggy.
No, he's
No, I'm
oh, he's
Velma.
Velma. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
you're
Shaggy.
Shaggy.
You're Shaggy.
Which means that you
Like Zoinks.
you've only used 10% of your power.
Oh my god.
Ooh. Okay. So skill.
Oh, sorry. Forgive me for even deigning to think that I could ever be Shaggy.
Yeah,
Yes,
correct.
forgive us.
May
oh,
his
Shaggy.
power reign upon us all.
Shaggy. We didn't mean it.
Forgive us.
Please do
Okay.
not gaze upon us.
Keep reading. Skill proficiencies.
Skill proficiencies, insight, investigation. I couldn't think of like any other, maybe
Fair enough.
intimidation.
No.
But those are your
Nah.
classic
Yeah,
detective
yeah,
skills.
yeah.
Tool proficiencies, thieves' tools, or a gaming set. You get a language.
How about
Tool
pipe,
proficiencies.
magnifying glass.
Tool
Those are your tool
proficiencies.
proficiencies.
Just a
Oh
couple
no.
of SIGs.
How about you're really proficient in wrenches, but only if you're in the study with Mr. Green.
Okay.
All right.
See, you thought it was real, but then it was a joke.
No, I knew it was a joke as soon as you opened
Nope.
your
I
mouth.
think that's the first like belated like long form setup joke you've done so far. It's normally me and Bean
Oh, wow.
doing
Yeah.
these like
Welcome to the show,
stretched
man.
out, really like overstaying
and that
their
was
welcome.
two tense sentences, and I gave up halfway through.
Yep.
Okay. But equipment, you get a detective's badge, a memento taken from a criminal that you put away, some kind of little thing, a magnifying glass, a small pocketbook, an ink pen, thieves' tools, or gaming set. It already said that.
No, it said you were proficient in it, not that you had it.
Oh, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
A set of common clothes and a pouch containing 10 gold pieces.
Which is important because if you lose your thieves' tools, you can't make a thieves' tools check. Important.
That's
This is why you also need tinkering tools so that
To
you
build
can
thieves'
build
tools.
thieves' tools out of the stuff that
Let
you
me just
find.
go and build these real quick.
Yeah.
That is a very interesting situation where it can be its own topic of discussion, where it's like when a subclass grants you proficiencies in something that you don't have.
Yeah.
Like being an assassin grants you like poisoner's kit and disguise
But
kit,
it doesn't give you.
but doesn't
yeah.
you don't inherently have those things. So it's like, oh, now that I can use them, let's go buy them. It's like, how did you learn how to use them if you don't have them? Same
I was
thing with
thinking
like
real hard about
with
it.
like valor bards and like medium armor proficiency. It's like all of a sudden you're like, hey, I know how to use that. Give me that over there. And like I know I've been handing you all the armor whenever we're divvying up loot,
guys,
but I'm gonna take
I
it.
just remembered. I was trained in that for years.
That's what it is. You've forgotten.
But anyways.
Feature. Elementary knowledge.
What?
It's just misspelled. It's
Oh.
okay. Elementary knowledge.
Elementary
my dear
knowledge.
Watson.
You know where to find people who know things, or people who know people who know things. When you enter a city,
Or people who know people who know people who know things. And then it just says that for 3 more pages.
Or
but we'll
people
skip
who
that.
need people.
Well, I know some people who know some people who robbed some people.
5 minutes later, who know things. When you enter a city, you know where to search for information about the happenings in the city. You also never forget the face of people you met, as you may need them in other cases.
Ooh.
Which is, so that's very cool. It's
I
similar,
never forget a face.
but it kind of gives you the, what's the feat? Keen mind?
It's like a mini keen mind.
Mini
Yeah.
keen mind.
Because you don't just have
It's
like
not
perfect
everything.
recall,
But
but
you
you have
just-
face perfect recall.
And it doesn't say their name. It just means that you, like,
I
remember
know I've seen that guy.
basically who they are. It's super simple, it's super quick, but you can take that so many different directions. And you're like, I know who this person is now. I can, and then paired with
don't-
everything else.
What I like about backgrounds is that instead of, because you could say, I can just get the keen mind feat. Why would I need this background,
Yeah.
right? But that's the thing, is you don't have to take the keen mind
You
feat.
get a level
If
up.
instead of taking like, if the keen mind feat wasn't as vital to your character, just kind of feeling like a detective, this is what you want to do, because
Yeah.
now you'll have an ability score improvement
Yeah.
instead of having to waste time to get the flavor of your character 4 levels into your character. You
Yeah.
know? It's like I didn't have my flavor until I was level 4 because I couldn't take the feat until then.
Yeah.
Backgrounds can fill that void of being like, I don't actually want to spend the resources on the full feat, but I want like the vibe of it. I want
Yeah.
to feel like I'm a detective.
I think that's its own discussion even about it being weird how sometimes you don't get like your subclass till like multiple levels in, and then you're like,
a
I
lot
don't.
of subclasses are like
yeah,
level 3.
yeah, and then it's like a weird thing where it's like, but I don't even like my backstory isn't real yet until then, I guess.
Mhm.
You know, it can be kind of weird, which is why I think that's one of the reasons why so many people start playing at level 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, but just again, like, because you don't get certain things until later, or, you know, you don't want to play the normal thing, you're like, well, I want to be this monk, but I don't want to, like, have really studied in a monastery. Like, I was just, like, a farmer. So, like, find a cool farmer
Yeah,
background and
yeah.
keep that. And it's like, then you have all the stuff that, like, being a farmer is, but you
It
don't have
feels
to,
like it.
like, you know, this is
I
this
love
is
that.
sprinkles.
Yeah.
This isn't the ice cream.
This
You're
is
not
Jimmy's.
You're not going in. We are not from South Carolina or wherever
No,
they say
Maine
Jimmy's. Maine
where
is
they
that?
say Jimmy's,
Oh
yeah.
man, I totally.
Ice cream sprinkles.
Is that what we're
Wait,
wrestling?
really?
You
Yeah.
put ice cream sprinkles are called Jimmy's in Maine.
That's so random.
Okay, I
Is that
totally
like a branded
thought
thing?
it was just no.
It's just
It's
like
like
a
saying pop
slang.
instead of soda.
Yeah.
We're
Do they
also
just pop?
You also can call them sprinkles in Maine. It's not like they'd be like, well, sprinkles? What are those?
As they just throw a bag of Jimmy's at
Also-
you.
No, but you'd be like, yeah, you want Jimmy's on it. You know what I mean?
We're
And you're
also
like, yeah.
doxing Thomas here a little bit because now he's one of the 4 people that live in Maine.
Oh, you do know who I am now. You can find me.
You can find his exact
The
address.
3 of them are mooses in trench coats.
So you're the king of Maine.
Yeah, I'm the king of Maine.
That's your background. The
Yep.
king of Maine.
No, that's my class. I'm lying about being a bard.
But this is just a cool way of like, it adds a little bit of flavor, but it doesn't go crazy.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, I want vanilla, but I do want a little bit of chocolate. So instead of making it chocolate ice
A
cream,
little bit of Jimmy's.
just a little bit of chocolate jimmies on there.
You know what I'm saying.
Uh,
Very good.
Very
You know,
cool.
and so don't take it too far though, because if your background is too crazy, that'll rustle my jimmies.
Oh, Russell made Jimmy's.
I already made that.
2008 dead meme
Did you?
references.
Yeah, he did say Russell.
Yeah, but you didn't make like a really big deal out of it that
Ah.
halted
that-
everyone.
Exactly. He was trying to keep the podcast going.
There's finally gonna be an episode where I can't make it, and it's the most efficient podcast
We'll
you
get
guys
through it.
have ever
I'll
done.
still be here. It's
I know,
fine.
yeah, Thomas was really...
It just needs to be me and Mercy, and then there'll be business.
If you and Mercy had a side quest, it would be 5 minutes.
We were just, and this is the feat that I like.
We need to
Okay.
we need to like do an experiment and have 2 side quests that are the same topic, and Onag and I do one and you 2 do one.
And
just
then
see-
we release them.
See, I
We
don't,
talk for 4 hours.
I don't know, because part of it though is it's us saying things to like
To you as
play
our
off
audience.
of you
Yeah,
guys
that is
because
true.
we know you'll react to it. So if it's just me and Thomas, we might also like we'll go to make a joke and then it's like, oh, but no
It's
one
just
else
at each other, though.
was here.
But no one got mad about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no fun if everyone else likes.
Okay.
Let's move on. We're gonna finish off the podcast here. Onog, bring us into port with this one.
All right.
'Cause, perfect
Fancy you should say
segue.
that. It's almost like you saw the link.
Yeah.
So I have brought a pirate class, not just a subclass of something, but an entire class of piracy.
So
Which
buckle
definitely-
in for 3 more hours of
Buckle
this
in for
podcast.
3 more hours of this podcast where we describe the boat ranger. Um,
Boat Ranger.
You'll understand in a minute. But this is made by Dungeon Master Dave, and it is posted on the website dmdave.com/pirate-class.
Great website, by the way, DM Dave.
Yeah, it's very, very good. But, so, I have brought before you the pirate. So let's just kind of go over the different things. The pirate is a martial class, so they get a d10 as their hit dice, leveling up, and they are proficient in all weapons, both martial and simple. Additionally, they are a medium armor class, and they have shields and that kind of proficiency. They also get an instrument, a starting instrument.
Very good.
You know,
Because you have to have your like
you have to-
accordion or your whatever.
the concertina.
Yeah. What's the weird the like lute,
Oh,
but it's
oh,
like got a crank on it.
a
I
hurdy-gurdy.
think that's a Is that a hurdy-gurdy?
Hurdy-gurdy, yeah.
Hurdy-gurdy.
I think you should be proficient in hurdy-gurdy.
Hurdy-gurdy, always.
Although you travel at half speed while playing the hurdy-gurdy because it's just so unwieldy.
But yeah. So, let's just dive right into it to the level 1 abilities you get for being a pirate. First one is shipworthy. Beginning at first level, you are intimately familiar with the conditions surrounding your vessel. Choose a type of vessel, airborne or waterborne.
Ooh, Sky Pirates.
Sky Pirates!
Very good.
When you make a dexterity, intelligence, or wisdom check related to operating your vessel, your vessel, of the chosen type, your
nuclear vessel.
Yeah, my nuclear vessel. Your proficiency bonus is doubled if you are using a skill that you are proficient in. You gain the following benefits while operating a vehicle of your chosen type. So here where we go, where this implies certain things about vehicles that we may or may not know yet.
Okay.
So, you and your ship can't become lost except by magical means.
So that's only while operating.
While operating your ship.
So
I was
if
just
you
gonna
go to
say.
sleep and someone else takes the wheel.
Well, no. Everyone else on the ship can be lost. Just you and your ship are not lost.
You know exactly where.
I
you're
mean,
You
going
know
in
exactly where
life.
everyone is panicking, though.
That isn't not true,
That isn't
though.
inherently untrue
Because
about how
like, I
ships
feel like
work.
Yeah.
every pirate movie I've seen, everyone else is like, "Where are we even going? Does he know what he is?" And he's like, "Look here, I'm the captain, and I know exactly where we are."
What if
This
the
is-
captain was Grover?
Now you see here, I am the captain of this here vessel, and I know positively where we are. You may all feel that you are lost, but as long as I am operating my vessel,
Draw and corner him.
No, but in the actual Sesame skit that's based off of, that's the part where like the mizzenmast swings by and knocks Grover off the boat,
Grover
and
shoots
all
into
the
space.
pirates panic. So, even when you are engaged in another activity while traveling on your vessel, such as navigating, tracking, or reveling,
Which is a later thing, I'm assuming.
that's just you drinking.
Oh, just when you
You're
party.
just
in a
partying.
Party boat.
You remain alert to danger. Party boat. Your cost.
Party boat.
Party.
So here's an interesting one. Your cost to hire a crew is half of what it normally is. As per the PHB, one skilled hireling costs at least 2 gold pieces per day. In addition, you can man a ship with 5 less crew than it is normally required, a minimum of 1. So basically, you're really good at cheapskating your employees.
So, well, and I mean, it's almost like this is your boat companion, like your animal companion.
Your animal
You're
companion
so
is boat.
bonded with it.
Yeah.
Because of your excellent tactics, the AC of your ships increases by 1 when you are at the command. This bonus increases by an additional 1 when you reach 5, again at 11th, and again at 12th level. So or 17th. Whatever. Numbers is hard.
It's D&D. Numbers don't matter.
It's D&D. Numbers don't
They've
matter.
never once
12th is the same power level as 17. For any water... So basically you just get a heftier boat.
Yep.
For any waterborne or airborne vehicle that you are the captain of with a crew of 10 or more before your modifier. So basically if the crew requires 10 people and you have 5 people, that counts as 10 people. So
Okay.
the hit points of the vehicle increase by an amount equal to 10 times your levels in this class. In addition, its speed increases by 2 miles per hour,
Oh boy.
Oh, man.
which on a boat is important.
It's a lot. We're
Yeah.
getting in depth here, my dude.
We're getting. You have a
This
healthy
is-
boat.
This
DM
is-
Dave, you,
When your vessel is berthed, you can make faster repairs to your ship than normal. You repair your ship at a rate of 2 HP per day, for a cost of 20 gold pieces for materials and labor instead of the normal repair rate.
I like
Okay.
that, though you're not British, you pronounced it H. I think that's cool.
and I also like that even though you're
HK.
not our American stereotype of a Russian, you pronounce it Wessel.
Yeah, it's very good.
All right.
Onag is a man of many
So
accents.
Many times.
I've been working
Oh!
says Crover. The other ability you get is the Pirate's Familiar.
Okay.
At
There
first
we go.
level, you have an animal companion that goes on adventures with you. It has to. It doesn't get a choice. Choose one of the following: bat, cat, crab, frog, toad, hawk, lizard, octopus, owl, poisonous snake, fish, quipper, rat, raven, parrot or macaw, seahorse, spider, or weasel.
Seahorse?
That's a
Weasel.
footnote
Do you
that
just
says...
carry it in a jar?
No, it's a footnote that says seahorse, and we gotta go to the other page.
All right. Your familiar acts independently of you, but it always obeys your commands in combat. It rolls its own initiative and acts on its own turn. A familiar can't attack, but it can take other actions as normal,
Hint, the help action.
which is what it's for. You can comprehend and verbally communicate with your familiar. The knowledge and awareness of your familiar are limited by its intelligence, but at a minimum it can give you information about anything that it has perceived within the past day, such as the number of monsters in the next room, or whether or not there is a trap over in the next corridor, or whether or not there's a mutiny being planned. You know, things like that.
Wait. You can communicate with it, but how would it communicate with you?
You can comprehend and verbally communicate with.
It's just sort of you
So
understand
it, it knows sign languages, and you're like, yeah, I got it.
Or is it that it just goes like... And you're like, oh, how
It's-
many of them?
It's just Aladdin and a boo.
Oh. Yes.
Or I mean, it's more like old cat ladies being like, yes, Mittens, he's testy today. But it's like actually real.
I love this because seahorse is one of them, and I'm just picturing he just has a jar of water with the seahorse in it, and he just looks at it and goes, "No!"
Tell me, Clarice. Tell me.
I like
Just
it.
silence.
The seahorse just like makes a sound. So it's like, it's just like, it's just like, how many are down the well? We've got to go. My familiar seahorse is
No, I
telling
like
me.
this because seahorses like don't make any noise, and it's like how insane you would look, but then the information is always correct.
The worst part is you have a seahorse in a jar, and then combat happens, and you drop it, and it's just
No.
rolling around on the ship.
And
And
then
a
it-
hamster ball.
Its hit point maximum equals the hit point number in its stat block, or 3 times your pirate level. Guess which one's going to be higher always, because one of the things you can be is a seahorse.
Fair enough.
Whichever is higher. Like any creature, it can spend hit dice during a short rest to regain hit points.
Any creature can do that?
That's a rule. Any creature
Oh,
can heal
really?
with hit dice. That's why they have hit dice in their stat blocks.
Interesting. I'd never thought of that. Like, it makes sense. I get it, but I'd just never considered. Well, while
They
you guys
can
were
take
doing that,
short
the
rests.
goblins took a short rest.
They're like, oh gosh,
yeah,
they're coming.
the goblin warlock gets his spells back. Yikes.
If the familiar dies, you can obtain a new familiar by spending 8 hours magically bonding with another creature from the list above that isn't hostile to you and that meets the requirements. You can't have more than one familiar at a time. So you gotta go diving for seahorses.
So, I mean, it's not a familiar that you conjure. It is an animal that you
that you found and then like bond with it
So
specifically.
you could just be like, guys, I just found this seahorse. He's my best friend. What's that? He's whispering to me. You're holding a seahorse.
There be
You're-
treasure down
He's got
below.
ocean madness. Guys, I wish it didn't say magically, and I wish it just said you spend 8 hours bonding with the creature. Because then you're just like
montage.
petting your seahorse. The
Yep,
guy comes in, he's like, Captain, we need you. He's like, I'm bonding right now.
Or it's like you
bonding.
go on like
He's
fun
playing
activities
catch.
with it.
I
Like
can't
you go
see
fishing.
me loving nobody but you.
Don't get us content ideas.
But like then you go fishing with it. It's like, sorry, this is a little cannibalistic, but like
The
this is
seahorse
the only thing I know how to
Holding
do.
the fishing rod.
All right, so moving onwardly. As a pirate, you are expert at overcoming situations when many others would not. At second level, when
We're
you
only on second level.
we're only at second level, baby.
Okay,
All right,
we'll
I'm
shut up.
gonna
Yeah,
speed through
let's
these.
shut up.
At second level, you make an ability check, attack roll, or saving throw. You can roll a d6 and add the number rolled to one ability check. You can wait until after you roll the d20 before deciding this feature. So basically, what this means, and you gain this feature a number of times equal to your charisma modifier. You regain any expended uses when you finish a long rest. And the dice gets bigger as you level up. So basically, you have personal inspiration that can only be used for you.
Okay, interesting.
Okay.
So it's very neat. Spell casting.
What?
By the time you reach second level, you have learned to use the magical essence of the sea or sky to cast spells, much as a ranger does. Remember how I said this is the boat ranger?
Boat rangers.
Indeed.
Even it admits it's the boat ranger.
Fair
But
enough.
in all honesty, actually, in reading in some of the notes, I think he talks about the creator talks about
DM Dave.
the DM Dave talks about how he took the base of a ranger and just kind of applied it to specifically boats.
Yeah.
And piracy.
Great way to make a homebrew.
Yep, that's what we talk about all the time. But the pirate table shows how many spell slots you have, yada yada. He's a half caster. He gets his spell
Right.
levels a little too. We won't really go over that. Spellcasting ability is charisma. So at third level, you choose your pirate archetype. Buccaneer or salty dog. These are two very different things that get moved around. It's a martial class, so it gets extra attack at 5th level. Tenacity. You have a mind of steel. You gain wisdom proficiency saving throws.
Okay.
And that's very similar to something that I think rangers and
Fighters.
rogues get. Rangers, some fighters, I think.
I'm not sure.
But I know rogues specifically also get like, so this is kind of like the bard rogue ranger, all kind of shammed into one. Confident combatant, you can give yourself a bonus to your initiative equal to your charisma modifier, so you get that swashbuckler ability kind of tacked on as well.
And swashbuckler
Then
at level
swashbuckler ability. You are a master duelist and fighter. Once on each of your turns, you can add your charisma bonus to your attack roll. So basically, you can not only move with your sexiness, but you can smack people with it, I guess.
Once per turn, so every turn you can just pretty much auto hit.
You just go
because
smack,
you're at
smack.
20th level, your charisma bonus is what, +5,
Right.
on top of your attack
Something like
bonus,
that, yeah.
on top of your weapon,
So,
on top of
I did want to go
better
into
hit.
the
You're gonna hit.
archetypes just a little bit. So there's the buccaneer and the salty dog. The salty dog is the one I'll talk to first because it's probably the quickest one we can go over. They get a fighting style at 3rd level, archery or dueling, no other options. They also gain heavy armor proficiency. So these are kind of the more bruiser pirates.
These are the like tough old pirates
Yeah.
who have like a couple of scars and eye patches.
You
Whereas I feel
definitely
like
have,
the
like, a peg
buccaneer
leg
is a
and
little
a
more
hook
the
for
like
a hand.
feathery hats.
For our listeners, this is basically the chubby penguin equivalent.
Yeah.
Of the pirates?
What was
bring
the other
it over.
penguin? It was
Slippery.
Slippery penguin. So
Slippery.
then the buccaneers.
Yeah, it is actually kind of a
Pretty
that's
much every class just has its own chubby and slippery subclasses.
Yeah.
Like,
to
more
a certain
or less.
degree. And we will use this terminology from now on.
That's really the chubbier class.
But yeah.
The
If you
chubby.
don't get it, guess you better go back to the beginning.
Durability, you gain resistance to poison damage and are immune to the poisoned condition.
Whoa.
In addition, you have advantage on con saving throws to avoid the effects of extreme cold and extreme heat.
Is that just a Princess Bride reference?
No, I
You're
think
just
it's
a pirate who's been
no.
developing an immunity.
Yeah,
No,
it might be.
could be. No, I think it's intended to be
You can
a
hold your
reference
liquor.
to liquor. Yeah, I think it's supposed to
Oh, that
be
makes
you
more
can
sense.
down as much because a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
of people treat that as poison.
I kind of just want it to be Dread Pirate reference.
A lot of people when
Wesley.
they play D&D, if they say that you're drunk, they just give you the poisoned condition.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Ferocity. You can make a single melee weapon attack as a bonus action on each of your turns. So at 11th level, you basically, if you want to use all of your actions for attacking, you get 3 attacks.
Okay.
And then resilience, beginning at 18th level, if you fail a dex con or strength saving throw, you can choose to succeed instead. So basically, yeah, once per day, you get, and this is just kind of like the leaning more into fighter kind of a thing.
That's what I was thinking of earlier
get-
with fighter, where you can just say, "No, I toughed it out." Actually,
No, I toughed it out, yeah.
Yeah.
So, moving back quickly, this is kind of to the, not swashbuckler, to the buccaneer.
yeah, the slippery.
This
pirate.
one kind of gets a little interesting because I thought I was reading the same ability again, because a lot of these have to do with charming people specifically.
Interesting.
Like,
okay.
even more so than a bard. You know?
Oh, this first ability.
This
is
first ability is like 9 pages
3
long.
paragraphs.
Yes.
Whoa.
So, Dashing Disputant.
Okay.
When you select this archetype, your fighting style is an enthralling sight to behold, full of panache and wonder. Immediately after you take the attack action against a creature with a melee weapon on your turn, you can use your bonus action to beguile the target. The target must make a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failed saving throw, the target has disadvantage on attacks rolls against you until the end of your next turn. Now, that by itself, that's not bad.
I mean, that's kind of a glamour bard.
Yeah.
That's like a little glamour bard. However, on subsequent turns, you can use your bonus action to maintain this effect, extending its duration until the end of your next turn. However, this effect ends if you move more than 5 feet away from the creature, if the creature can neither see nor hear you, or if the creature takes damage.
Oh.
So you have to do this after attacking.
Yeah.
Got it.
Creatures immune to charm automatically succeed on their saving throw, obviously.
Yeah.
And you can use this feature a number of times equal to your charisma modifier.
Oh.
That's going to be
it's
a running thing.
It's not a.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not just a thing you can do.
It's not like a once per
It's a
short
limited
rest.
usage.
It's like a bardic inspiration of like you have to keep track of how many you've used.
So treasure sense.
Very good.
At 3rd level, you have a sense for when treasure is nearby. You've got a good sniffer, I guess. I don't know. You can use your action to expend 1 pirate spell slot, which is not a phrase I ever thought I would say, to focus your awareness on the area around you. For 1 minute per level of spell slot you expend, you can sense whether or not treasure is, at least 100 GP worth or more, is present within 100 feet of you. This feature doesn't reveal the total amount of treasure or number.
Okay.
So it's just like you can go, there's gold in them there hills.
I would have liked it more if instead of being an ability, this was just listed that it's like you have dark vision and treasure sense.
And treasure sense.
And
And just
tremor
let us
sense.
explain, let us figure out what that means.
Yeah.
So here we go.
Rakish.
At Rakish Charm. At 6th level, as an action, you can captivate a small audience with your wit and grace. Choose a number of creatures equal to your charisma modifier within 30 feet of you that can see or hear you. Each creature must make a wisdom saving throw, and does so with advantage if your companions are fighting them. If a creature fails its saving throw, it is charmed by you. While charmed by you, this creature's speed drops to 0 and the creature is incapacitated. This effect lasts until the start of your next turn. If you move more than 5 feet away from the creature, so once again, it targets multiple creatures, but you also have to be within 5 feet of each of them. If you move more than 5 feet away from the creature,
It's a Puss in
if
Boots
the creature-
ability where, like, if people
just
are about
baby
to
doll
kill
eye.
you, you just look at them and they're like, "Oh, I can't attack them."
I can't do that.
So yeah, so basically, one of the problems I had while reading this is I thought, well, that's just the same. Technically, it's not the same as the ability, but as the
Previous one.
combat previous ability.
Disputant.
But it's like it's kind of like what we talked about before, where it's like when we were talking about those spells, make them feel different, and these
Right.
kind of just feel the same. It's like you're charismatic, people will pay attention to you, people will be mesmerized by you, and this is just kind of that, but it's on more people now that are within 5 feet of you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do agree. Like sometimes even with real classes in the PHP, sometimes it is like, hey, you're charismatic, and at 3rd level we reference that. At 6th level, you're charismatic, so that's what. And then at 10th level, I mean, you're charismatic. It's like they're so one note that they're all sort of doing like they're like overlapping so much, as opposed to each being like a different aspect of your character being revealed or enhanced. Yeah.
But yeah, and so this all kind of like the Buccaneer, at least with these ability, kind of feels a little one note with that.
Fair enough.
Whereas like the Sea Dog or the Salty Dog, what is like, yeah, he's rough and tough, but it all comes off in different ways. It's not just like you take less damage and the next level up you go and he continues to take less damage,
but slightly differently.
But slightly differently, you know. But this is like he's immune to poison, and this one he's really good at saving those saving throws, things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so at 11th level you can use your action to make a melee attack against any number of creatures within 5 feet of you. So once again, that's a ranger. That's that ranger ability. Duel of Fate. I knew someone would do it. All right.
La 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 la.
You were getting there.
Technically, Grover was in that movie.
Oh, okay, that took me a second. I was like, where?
Yeah, he played Darth Maul.
he played Darth Maul.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi.
As it gets cut in half. All right. You can entice a creature to face you one-on-one. Choose one creature that you can see within 30 feet of you that can see and hear you, once again, and creatures that can't be charmed are immune to this effect. So once again, if you're fighting an elf,
you do nothing.
You can't use any of these abilities on them.
That's the problem with being too
one note.
Yeah, is that if that one note is defeated, you are defeated.
It's your Achilles heel.
Yeah.
While enthralled by you, the creature must use all of its movement to get within melee reach of you, and it has advantage on its attacks against you, and you and other creatures have advantage against attack rolls against it. So you kind of force someone to do reckless attack against you.
You're both more likely to hit it.
The effect lasts as long as you maintain your concentration, as if concentrating on a spell. As an action, the enthralled creature makes a wisdom saving throw to regain control of itself. On a successful save, the effect ends. So this is interesting because it's not an automatic save. It has to use its action and to try and break out of it. So even if it breaks out of it, it still has that disadvantage for that round, kind of a thing, I think, based on my reading of it.
Yeah, it also doesn't force it to attack you. It incentivizes
it. It incentivizes it to attack you.
Which is interesting. In 5th edition, there are no lure abilities.
Well,
there are abilities that incentivize it.
Yeah.
There's almost, I can't think of one that says they must make a melee attack against you.
I'm going to bring an anglerfish player class next time.
But that used to be a thing in previous editions. That was actually a big thing where it was like, I will purposefully walk out in front and say, you have to attack me instead.
Yeah. There are abilities that make, like Crown of Madness makes people that they have to attack, but it doesn't specify who.
Yeah.
So it always still gives you the option of choice.
That's interesting though, because the opposite does exist, where it's like there are things that make it so you can't attack a certain person, or there are things that make it so you must run away from a certain person.
They have to make a check to not attack.
Yeah, like
Sanctuary.
Sanctuary, yeah.
Really simple, obvious. But there's no anti-sanctuary. There's no, they have to make a wisdom saving throw, and if they fail it, they have to attack you.
So it's odd that the other one exists.
Yeah, it is weird. But yeah. I dig the pirate though. Like overall, the slippery pirate, a little one note, but the chubby pirate, I'm really into.
Very good.
And that's the thing. It's just like at first I was reading, it's like it's just a boat ranger, but it's so different enough. I do have a little bit of concern though, because I mean obviously, just as a general recommendation, you don't want to be a pirate if you're not in a nautical campaign, because most of your primary early level abilities will not work.
Yeah,
will not do anything.
Yeah.
And so like you would clearly only do this if your DM was like, hey, we're doing a piracy campaign, and you're like, all right, I'm going to work my way up to captain, and then now the boat will be so cool and we'll be in charge of everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it is cool that you do have so many different types of pirates, because if you're making a pirate crew, as a campaign, you can all be pirates, but different types of pirates.
That's true.
But a thing I do have about this is that your level 1 abilities don't grant you anything inherently.
Yeah,
you are just a base martial class character who is better at boats and has a parrot that really can't do anything.
But also, you don't even necessarily have a boat.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily have a boat.
You would be better at one if you had it. But maybe you do. Maybe your DM was like, you start with a boat.
Maybe the DM isn't handing these level 1 characters a boat.
Yeah. I overall think that this class is not bad or anything. It's well designed.
It's a jumping off point for a
Definitely.
discussion, certainly.
I think that what it is a good touchstone for a discussion about backgrounds and classes and where that Venn diagram overlaps and how that fits together. But overall, I think it's a really cool class.
It's a very good example of taking things that already exist, like rangers, like, swashbucklers, but then also adding your own language of, like, here are some creative
your
abilities
own language,
that... I was considering doing a Grover voice, and then I just realized how hollow I am inside.
But guys, back to the seahorse, though. Imagine walking into the captain's quarter. It's dark, it's musty, it's only lit by candles, and he's there in all his pirate captain-y glory with his big hat with the feathers and the floofy shirt, like the hook for a hand, and he's sitting there petting a seahorse in a bottle.
He's just stroking the bottle.
It's like the Dr. Evil petting the cat.
Yeah, that's very
but it's
good.
just a seahorse.
He's just petting the other.
He's just like, Mr. Bubbles doesn't like you.
You guys are saying he's in a jar. What if he wasn't? And he's just like,
What if he has a scuba helmet?
No. It's worse though.
He's got a bubble over, like a magical bubble.
It's
That's what I
flopping
meant.
around, and he's just always sitting, and he's like, Bubbles, quick, go around the corner, see how many monsters there are. And he throws it, and he's just like,
it does the Magikarp like splashing across.
and the rest of the crew is like, should we tell him? I just don't know.
It's a dead seahorse.
It
died a while ago.
And he's just dragging it around like a puppy.
He like, go tell me how many are in. And he throws it, and it's on the end of a fishing line. He reels it back in.
But it works, but it functions as
How
a
many were
familiar.
there? And then everyone hears Eldritch whispering. She's like,
It's the
there are
ghost of
5 of them.
That's so good.
The ghost of a seahorse.
Or
love it.
it's dead. It's been dead a long time. He thinks it's talking to him, and everyone just lets him believe that it's not.
Yeah, I want to.
He doesn't have to face that
They
reality.
keep having to replace him.
Captain, maybe it's about time we send Bubbles to the ranch where all the other seahorses go to.
To the ocean ranch.
No, he doesn't want to go to the ranch. All right, you're the captain.
I want to play a character that thinks they have a familiar, but does not.
It's just a feral cat.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Captain.
no.
That's just your javelin character
Yeah.
who keeps trying to collect
Captain.
snakes.
Come, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your seahorse died months ago. Well, goodbye. Don't try and stop me, Smee. Don't try and stop me. I'm going to do it now this time, Smee. I'm really going to. No, he's fine. He's fine. He's not dead. I was kidding, Captain. All right.
You sure? Yes.
Yes.
Because
We
I'll
all
kill us
love
both.
The NPC captain I'm going to make decidedly has a dead seahorse, but it does start to rot every now and then, and he just thinks it likes to go to sleep. So you, the crew, have to keep replacing the seahorse without him knowing.
Oh, that's
And
just like with your kid's goldfish.
A little
yeah,
mini game.
but it's like a constant thing, and you have to keep
Well,
an eye.
goldfish can live up to 20 years.
No, Onog.
Goldfish often, like caterpillars, metamorphose into other different goldfish that are visually similar, but not identical.
But like, imagine the captain. They're like, "Oh, Papa's just sleeping now," and the crew is like, "Okay, we have like
Gotta get
3 days to get a new seahorse," and they're like, "All I could get was this flounder," and they're like, "Jimmy, that's
He's
not
gonna know.
that's
You
not
need
the same."
Go out and find Bubbles 9.5.
And like the figurehead of the boat is a seahorse, but the eyes are crossed out with X's.
The eyes are barnacles.
Yeah. Aye, it's the dead seahorse. Why do they keep calling the ship that? Don't worry about it, Captain.
It's just a sleeping seahorse.
It's a sleepy seahorse. Yeah, that's the name of the boat.
My next ocean campaign will start in the Sleepy Seahorse.
Yeah.
We're gonna move ins. We're not the Copperfoxinn anymore. We're the Sleepy Seahorse Inn.
And now we have to voice to
No, just
It's just an hour of.
An hour? I think you mean 2.5 hours.
we're gonna use some harsh editing.
With that note, let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for listening, for sticking with us to the end. If you did, we're very appreciative. But also, why are you doing this to yourself?
You could have played D&D in this
You
time.
could have been doing anything else. You can click that like button or the subscribe button below. That'd be fantastic.
But don't click it twice because then that unsubscribes. So click it once.
Yeah, both
Or
of
if you
them,
have clicked it twice, click it 3 times.
an odd number of times.
And the bell thing, you know how. At this point, you probably are
You probably
familiar with
get it.
YouTube.
No,
Yeah.
what if this is the person this is the first time on YouTube and ours is the video they stumble across? We need to explain specifically how it works.
Okay, so YouTube is a video
so-
sharing site,
So
but we upload an audio format.
pick up your keyboard, put it back down.
Then go touch your mouse. Okay. Comment below with any fun homebrews that you've either found or made, or send them to us at our email, thecopperfoxinn@gmail.com. And with that, I think we'll wrap it up for the day. So keep on adventuring. We'll see you next time. Bubbles.